Mature yoga, Padmasana and apana-vayu. The important component of yoga is energy. Energy that is in a person's body, and also those energies that may change the result of your practice in one form or another. But yesterday, I think we haven't finished talking about karma, and I suppose we should talk about it a little bit more, though the ones who need to hear about karma are not present. Where is our shop owner lady? Oh, whoa. Business. You'll tell her. Okay, and the young ones have also left? Preparing for the morning, okay. Alright, let's start with energies then. There is a concept that there are 5 main types of energies in human body, and that they directly influence life activity. Not all views concerning reality cross with physiology. There are some views in reality that cross with energies, and it's not always easy, because there are people who say, seeing is believing. These people need some sort of example so that they could accept that there is an alternative point of view on the world. I'll draw it schematically. Sorry, I'm not an artist. Here is our protagonist, and this is apana-vayu. It surrounds the person's legs. Well, and all people are different, and therefore the degree of this energy won't be the same in different people. Here's the bottom line. When you practice Hatha Yoga, you surely notice that your physical body is not always in the same condition. Sometimes you practiced and everything turns out great, exceptional, that is perfectly straight and wonderful. And sometimes you practice and there's nothing going on, it's so hard. The most striking example, of course, would be Padmasana. But because Padmasana isn't for everybody, we'll not even consider it, being it almost like an atavism. But we'll talk about paschimottanasana, when a person tries to bend forward, right? Sometimes he bends like this, sometimes he bends completely, so 3 variations, right? Here's an explanation for stiffness in your legs. It's all about apana-vayu. If it goes stronger, stiffness comes, and today we'll try to talk about why it goes stronger. What should we do so it wouldn't go stronger and everything would be okay? Of course you can, it's just difficult, so it goes stronger. And here's the bottom line. If you lived in a perfect society where birds sing and all's wonderful, there would be no one around you who would have thought about the negative, low things, and so you wouldn't have problems you have now. But you have to appreciate what you have, so rejoice that you learn about apana-vayu. You took a subway or stood near a person with negative thoughts. And whether you like it or not, but your energy will be affected by the environment. You won't affect anyone with your low apana-vayu, but a high one, more powerful one, will affect you. But maybe someday you'll become strong in terms of energy, and you will positively affect the world around you. But for now, as the experience shows, the world around you is much stronger, but not always. Let's try and talk about different concepts, where apana-vayu comes from, why some have high apana-vayu, some have low, and so I hope we'll find such a way to live in a society that you will gain proper social experience, and at the same time you won't be affected that much by the society. I'll say this again, have you noticed such a thing when the same asana turns out differently different times, understand? Assume that this apana-vayu concept works, and in future you'll find out for yourself whether it's real or elusive. As far as I know, different schools use this concept, but some completely ignore it. Well, it's their choice. Ashtanga Yoga, Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, Padmasana Joyce school use this concept. That is, they try to turn around the flow of apana-vayu to raise it up. Well, the bottom line in such schools is, you probably have heard of the energy locks concept, haven't you? There are 3 common locks, but in the apana-vayu case, the main lock is mula bandha, or the root lock. When you tighten up the crotch, pull the energy up and try not to release it down. It's thought you pick up apana-vayu this way. Padmasana is considered as such high-quality tool for apana-vayu. That is, while you're sitting in Padmasana, you can change the flow of energy, but only in such Padmasana when your feet clamp the hips. That is, they clamp the flow of energy downwards. If you sit in Padmasana like this, then maybe you too will influence the flow of energy, but only at the bottom of your legs. That is where you can clamp energy. So it's better to sit in Padmasana correctly. But then again, what does correctly mean? Well, it's a difficult topic because most viewers of this lecture, they're probably very far from Padmasana. And it's their choice. Should I explain what do you need Padmasana for? Should I? Well, okay, then we'll come back to Padmasana later, when we'll finish with the apana-vayu. So, energy is affected most by thought, then by the word, then by the action. Those actions carried out by a person affect energy functioning in his body. Imagine that there is some John Smith who believes that, well, say, his manager has treated him unjustly. And so this guy, being in his injustice, starts generating the so-called negativity. Understand? And so he calls this manager bad names and other things. And because of doing this, he manifests bad qualities on the level of speech and mind, right? What will happen because of this? Yes, perhaps the manager will receive some negative energy, but the person who generated this negativity will get the same negative energy, understand? And his legs will stiffen because all this negativity that he produces, the so-called anger, this would increase apana-vayu. The lower chakras impact enough on strengthening the apana-vayu energy. And so when a person doesn't perceive anything except for second chakra, except for sexual comfort, that is also a constant strengthening of the apana-vayu. Those people's legs are concrete, meaning they don't bend. That is, the negativity the person puts out will harm himself in the first place. This is the basic concept. Therefore, if you want to more or less deal with your apana-vayu, which each of you already has got, you have to learn to control your body, speech and mind. That is, do not let destructive thoughts, which are of course self-destructive as well. At the level of speech, do not allow to say any incorrect things in relation to the world around you. I will explain why. You can say, well, this is the same concept as Christians may have, like turning the other cheek and so on. Not quite. The thing is that if there is a bad employer or director or some negative situation manifested around you, this is the reflection of your inner world. If you didn't have the karma, there would be no employer, meaning you have created the cause yourself. And such a snowball begins. At first you were a bad employer, producing negativity towards somebody. You made this karma, and then in future life you are no longer an employer, but you are a slave who's taking this negativity from an employer. Understand the logic? But of course it may not be in future life, but after a certain amount of lives. And this person, not realizing the way the law of karma affects, he will be in this absolutely primitive way involved in this endless cycle. When one person does something bad to another, the way previous owner of this negativity did, so it turns out that negativity, it lives by itself now, and people just involved in this scenario, just like we talked yesterday about a theater, that all people have a program by which they live, and which makes them relive certain lessons. So the same lesson can be passed differently, and from the point of view of yoga, if you want to overcome the negative energies, try not to get involved in them. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Again, do it as much as you can. So, how to deal with the apana-vayu? The methods are very simple. Hatha yoga affects that energy, meaning each time you stretch muscles of your body, opening joints, you will affect apana-vayu. But you can be in paschimottanasana without knowing what's going on. You bend and endure until the asana gives in. If during a session you do paschimottanasana 2 times, then the first one is usually worse than the second. Many explain this like, well, I was tired, I didn't get much sleep, that's why it's worse. But the second time you do, it's better. Have you noticed that? If you do it 3rd time and 4th time, then each time it will be better and better. But that's only if you're already on this path. If you came to an agreement with your apana-vayu and started working with it. But if you do your first steps and never touch the floor or legs with your forehead while in paschimottanasana, then it's useless talking about a progress after some 3 or 4 sets. Do you understand? That is, at first you have to work with this direction, and then you'll be able to use your body as a barometer, measuring the degree of your stiffness. This point is understood by many yoga teachers when, for example, they hold a seminar, and the yoga teacher before and after the seminar, these are 2 different people. That is, I mean from the energetic point of view. That is, your stretching was great, a seminar passed, and you'll be able to sit in paschimottanasana not as before, but close. That's all because energy exchange. The more people will concentrate on you, the harder it will be for you. And we can always see it in everyday life. You probably have heard that in this world it's accepted to stand out. Wanting to have a best car, shoes, flat, and everything else. You know, motivations work so that people would strive towards something. If it's a woman, she's recommended to wear higher heels, a brighter makeup, a perfume that would kill mosquitoes, you know, having the best of the best. And if a person's trying to practice, it will be very hard for him.
Это все ведет к тому, что человек с точки зрения йоги, если такой человек занимается, ему будет очень тяжело. Чем сильнее, давайте рассмотрим вариант.
So let's have an example in real life. Let's speak about an ideal woman. And if she's ideal and have everything other women want but don't have, what will they feel? Jealousy, right? So, Let's consider
то те
such a
люди, которые
situation.
такой прекрасной широкой юбкой,
So a young man
или такие
sits with his girlfriend on the beach,
они, соответственно,
and a
через
girl
они будут
passes by in a smaller bikini,
завидовать и ревновать, да?
and the young man
Разве не
automatically, well, coincidentally,
с девушкой?
turns his head to the direction
Для них проходит
this bikini went.
девушка в чуть короче
Sounds
рукаве,
familiar?
значит, у той, которая у этого молодого человека.
What will his
Молодой
girlfriend
человек
experience?
ну, это
What are the options, please?
Он нос свой повел в ту сторону, куда этот купальник пошел. Сталкивались с таким? Что будет испытывать девушка, которая с ним сидит рядом? Какие варианты предлагаете? Зависть, еще что-то?
Envy, what else?
Как это
And
проявится?
how will it manifest?
Нет, она же скажет на
Well, she will say some words in address to the girl in smaller bikini, right?
Правильно.
Yes, so she will produce some sort of negativity, right?
Скорее всего, негативно.
And it probably won't be a spiritual remark like, oh, what a sophisticated girl just passed by, honey, have you seen her? She will probably say something opposite, is that clear?
Все это понимают.
This always happens in society,
Постоянно.
and
Не в том
I mean not the beat situation in particular, but any attraction have a potential to produce negative energy. Do you understand this?
негативная энергия. Вы понимаете это?
Have you encountered this? Then you can understand that if some people will concentrate on this beautiful lady in a negative way, then in the end, the more negative energy they will pour on her, the more negative energy will surround her. Do all understand that?
Все это понимают.
Now, you understand why yoga recommends not to stand out, not to attract things you really don't need,
Ну, то есть,
meaning all those ambitions that you can manifest in life
то есть все
will hardly do you any good. Have all understood that?
вряд ли позитивно будут на вас влиять. Все это поняли? Естественно,
Of course, you may say, well, Andrey, but you yourself read lectures, post videos, so what's up with that? I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't asked to. I had a calm, good life, you know,
вы знаете,
had more weight.
я посмотрел недавно,
Recently I took a look at my old photos, had those big cheeks, you know. Well, I'm just kidding, of course. Of course, it's karma.
ну ладно, смех смехом. Конечно, это карма. То есть,
Meaning, when people ask me to upload, I have to upload, because if I won't do it, I won't pay the debts I have, and I recommend you to do the same. When I say, yes, friends, it's tough, but if you have an opportunity to share knowledge, of course, there will be problems, but those will be problems you've created yourself, no more nor less, understand?
поэтому если
Therefore, if you can enlighten the society at the level you're in, you'll only be repaying the debts.
и все
And to all teachers I recommend, if you have an opportunity to give people knowledge,
знания,
do it necessarily, otherwise you won't progress. Yes.
да.
I have a question. You tell not to stand out, right? But if you have karma to suffer and you want to stand out, well, that's just your karma, right?
Следующий
And now we're going to talk about karma, vikarma and akarma. There are problems that you create consciously, and there are problems that you create unconsciously. And there are problems that you create because you have to, meaning you have no other choice. But you are not really involved in the process, because it's a vital necessity, because there is no other way around, though you understand everything. We have here a choice to stand out or not to stand out. To a certain extent, yes, but as you've rightly put it, it's all karma, and so, friends, this is... Well, this bikini girl will have many problems with the apana-vayu. You can say, but how so, Andrey? Because there are ballerinas that upload such monstrous content, and still they bend. Friends, this is a slightly different case. Ballet dancers abuse their bodies from the age of 5. They are being torn. Just please find out, if you don't believe me, just find out how they are being trained to do splits in ballet schools or in rhythmic gymnastics. Have never wondered? Yes, very harsh. Very harsh, children cry and they are still being told to. And nobody cares about it. Yes. But because they have suffered, will their karma become better? But for what they have suffered? To show? For flying on the scene? Just recall the stories of Krylov and others. So most likely not. So those people who maintain certain body condition from their childhood, it doesn't mean these people will be highly spiritual, that will understand subtle things, much to my regret. It's very hard to find examples in this regard. Every public person knows how hard it is. Among people who have some relevance to so-called politics, when people put forward certain things before cameras, you know there is such an opinion that those big TV cameras that are used in taking interviews, so these cameras are called X-ray units. Because people who went through these cameras, they perfectly understand that if you stand before 2 cameras, it's hard. If there are 5 cameras, will be very hard. And if there are 10 cameras, it will be such a mess, a survival test. It's a well-known fact, at least for those who've encountered such situations. Any activity that includes concentration of a big amount of people is very hard. This is one of the hardest form of life. And yoga instructors, whether you like it or not, are public people, when you can affect others in a good way. Let's have another example. If there is a yoga teacher who's all graceful, good-looking, and so on, knowing all this crap I just said, having trouble believing in it, you may say, well, it's probably not true that attraction works this way. It is true. But if a yoga instructor will find the courage to engage in some public activity, and then also will find the courage to even self-improve, this will bring benefit to all who's focused on him. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So from the one hand, he's collecting all this negativity, but from the other, because of his own practice, he firstly changes his own energy, and then as a consequence, the world around him will change as well. That's why I also recommend yoga teachers to engage in some public activities, at least from the perspective of promoting healthy lifestyle and certain idealistic and yoga ideas. That is, we've talked about thoughts. Oh no, we didn't talk about thoughts. We've talked about actions and words. So, on the thought level, if you start thinking about certain negative things, have you heard the saying, one's heart fell into one's boots? Well, when a person is frightened, he has something going on with his legs. Have you encountered that? And that means the person's certain negative qualities can influence the state of his jivatma. And people who do many negative things have problems with their legs. That's just the way things are, to my regret. So if a person could do yoga and sustain himself in more or less fine energy condition, because of this we wouldn't have problems with thoughts, speech and body, because all deeds influence energy. Energy influences all deeds. That is, you keep yourself in harmony, therefore you automatically have a positive impact on the environment. Regarding this part, do you have any questions, comments, or additions? All is clear? All right then.
Вот по этой части какие-то вопросы, комментарии, дополнения есть? Все понятно. Хорошо.
Now, why so many people strive for Padmasana?
Ну, большинство йогов
Most yogis strive for Padmasana because of pranayamas, because pranayama's efficiency with Padmasana will differ from the efficiency without Padmasana. And there are some pranayamas that have no sense without Padmasana. There are complex pranayamas that can be done only in Padmasana with certain locks. In some pranayamas it's recommended close channels with your heels. That is when you put your heels in your stomach, so to say. That's thought to close energy flow in Ida in Pingala, redirecting it to Sushumna. But it's not for everyone.
И считается, вы перекрываете таким образом ток энергии по Иде и Пингале и направляете таким образом за счет бандхи энергию в сушумну. То есть собираете энергию в сушумну. Но это уже, как сказать, не для всех.
In order to get some complex pranayamas, and I don't know where you'll get them, because if you become some pandit student who knows these pranayamas, then you'll have to be his student for 12 years. And in those 12 years, your social orientation will change, and it's highly unlikely you'll come back to society. So I don't really see the point in telling you about things you won't be able to find. What's the point? So let's leave pranayama and we'll talk about apana-vayu that turns its direction around because of the locks in Padmasana. It's believed that when you sit in such a position, your apana-vayu stops its flow, and using certain locks, you turn it upwards. So you can transform this energy of negative influence through your asceticism into an energy that positively influences your health and the environment around you, okay? But again, that's only regarding Padmasana. I'm being asked a lot to make a video about how to acquire it. So I will tell you what I didn't see on the internet.
Поэтому я вам сейчас расскажу то, что я, по крайней мере, в сети не видел. Никто это пока не говорил.
There are good schools that state Padmasana fails because of the enslavement of the hip joints, the enslavement of the ankle, and partly knee joints. Because if you want to turn your foot in that plane, you will still need to have a certain degree of mobility in your knee. But it's important that you cannot use only the knee joint in order to sit in Padmasana. That is, don't turn your legs only in knee joints in order to sit in it. You need to comprehensively develop three joints. Hip is the main, ankle, and partially the knee joint. Ankle joint is important because when people first sit in Padmasana with their ankles turned, after 15 minutes you will have such pains that you will think, do I really need this? So in order to develop all these joints, you need to do Hatha Yoga comprehensively. That is, work with all joints. The majority of asanas will help you open these joints. Gradually, when your joints will be more or less developed, theoretically, you will be able to sit in Padmasana. But you will sit in it just for a couple of seconds. Because what will occur? Do you have any options?
Потому что когда вы засунете даже свои ноги в эту асану, что у вас начнется в теле? Какие варианты?
Yes, much pain. It will be very painful, and that's reasonable to some degree, because there is an opinion, and some Ayurvedic doctors use it, that human body represents the karma of the person in past lives and in current life. And so legs are responsible for some negative actions to the world around you. That's why there is pain. But factually, if you exercise regularly, you will be eventually able to remove the pain from your body. And if you want to know about karma in physiology, you can turn your attention to Paul Greeley.
Попробуйте в сети найти, к сожалению, по-моему, только на английском языке. Есть такой товарищ, живет он в США, или, по крайней мере, жил лет 10 назад в США. Пауль Грилей называется его имя. Или Пауль Грилей. На русском языке я пока не встречал.
He breaks the concept of Iyengar when a student has to copy, like maximum copy, his teacher in every move. Understand the concept? And so Greeley explains using facts that it's not always possible. He takes bones of past individuals, and in particular, he gives a great example with shin bone. Shin is in your hip, and there is a very important moment regarding your shin, and that's a femoral neck and the angle of the femoral neck. And some people, if we take, two shins, and some person have a nice angle, everything goes all right, it's all good, while other can have an angle of, what do you think, of 45 degrees. So, do you know what that means? He just won't sit, correct. Somebody has the physiology to do it and somebody doesn't. He simply cannot do it. It's too late. And Paul Greeley tells about many aspects of physiology. So that's why I never recommend to tune asanas up. It's such a misconception. How you can tune his asana if he has a different physiology? You're what? You will break him? And my experience shows that there is no use to do it, to copy the teacher. No use at all. Nobody will gain from that. You should recommend to do asana the way your student can allow himself on his stage of development. Gradually, if a person is destined to go forward, he will overcome many difficulties and everything will be fine with him. But to make somebody do something he can't, that's just absurd. That's why I never recommend to do this, and I recommend only to reach the level of discomfort, not pain, but discomfort. If you break the person, there will be pain, so no sense. So regarding Padmasana, it really influences the mind just as the energy influences your thoughts, and so the absence of apana-vayu broadens your mind. So sometime before, we were talking about a couple on the beach and some lady that caught the attention of the man. You will be amazed, but if there were two people sitting in Padmasana, breathing the fresh air, and some even more sophisticated lady goes by, nobody of those two people will be caught by her. It won't be interesting for them. And even if their heads will turn, but it won't because of her. That's the Padmasana effect. Can you assume that? In order to acquire Padmasana, you have to go through a lot. Why, of course. Padmasana is acquired through hard work. And I will tell you about concept I attained through life experience. Here it goes. There is a certain quality of joy and sorrow in your life. It's conditioned by your past actions. That's why the number of your suffering and pain is also a conditioned figure. And there are some schools, of course not in Russia, but in the East, that usually say, if you want to overcome your limitation, you have to work with this limitation. If you are destined to experience this certain amount of pain, you will experience it eventually. It doesn't matter if you do it in 10 years, a little day by day, or in 1 year, with dignity, courageously, sitting, wiping sweat and tears, but still carrying on. Once again, what I'm saying, this is not for everyone. In no case you should force yourself to endure pain. We recommend to reach a certain level of discomfort. If you cannot sit in Padmasana for a long time, in 5 minutes you have real pain. That's fine. You just ease the volume of your Padmasana and keep it at the level of discomfort. That is, you sit in Padmasana for 15 minutes and you can feel these little needles around you. In another 15 minutes, the needles become much bigger, so it's really not okay. So you just switch Padmasana to half lotus, half Padmasana. And in half lotus, you can sit longer. Not 15 minutes, but an hour. The efficiency is the same. When your leg is numb, just switch legs. Sit in half lotus, but from another side, okay? And gradually, a person can go through that discomfort that he has. I know many people who through such actions that is not enduring pain but discomfort for a longer time, they could develop Padmasana very well, and that's common. But it's useless to develop Padmasana if you do bad things systematically, vile things. What do I mean by those things? Sage Patanjali describes very well in Yama and Niyama concepts. Google Yama and Niyama. As a Russian person, you should be familiar with the word Yama, English, a pit. That is a place where you can get and it takes much time to get out. Yama, Niyama.
Причем, как русскому человеку, вам, наверное, на слух уже как-то с ямой все понятно. Потому что называют ямой? То, куда можно, в принципе, попасть.
There is an assumption that this is the exact word that Patanjali used, because he spoke the language that is very familiar to Russian. If you didn't know, Sanskrit, that is foundation of yoga, is very close to Russian, and you don't have to take my word for it, but go to our website, open a Vedic culture tab, and find a book that is called The Arctic Home in Vedas by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who is an Indian himself. Arctic Home in Vedas. So read what this man has to say about the origins of yoga and so on. Or take Durga Prasad Shastri and his famous links between Russian and Sanskrit. There's plenty of information about Russian on our website. Read it. You will gain a lot. But the basis is Yama, Niyama. So, Yama is what a man on the path of yoga shouldn't do. Niyama is what this man should do. And it's much, much harder. It's not just don't do this and that, but cultivate certain qualities, positive qualities. And only if you follow those principles of yama and niyama, you should do yoga or some inner activities. Because otherwise, if you do nasty things, vile things to others, it's no use to do yoga, because you will constantly regaining problems with asanas because of that. Remember, I told you about a certain amount of suffering you are destined to experience. If you do bad things to other living beings, in reality, you do bad things to yourself. So if you make problems for others, these problems automatically reflect in your body. Understand? Alright, I will give you a primitive example. If there is a cat pooping on your doorstep, you may react differently, right, in a lot of ways. And so even if you will say something bad to this cat, you will make your Padmasana worse. Because it's all interconnected. Harming humans, of course, is a lot worse. Everything in this world is so interconnected. Bear that in mind. And in reality, the whole universe is one. But because the one became many, these many pieces, humans, and they think they are special, they are personalities. But though if you will look deeper, all of us are one, but with different experiences. That's why, when you make problems for others, you only make problems for yourself, understand? That's why you should do Padmasana only if you live by certain moral code. Like in Russia used to say, live by conscience in harmony with nature. That is, do not harm nature, and try to live harmoniously with the society in which you are residing. Or don't do others what you don't want to get from them. Then too, you will live in harmony. You can say, okay, I will do everything nicely and all be well. But, well, let's have an example. That you have a good spiritual condition, of course, no problem. But you live off the resources of somebody who's not doing the most moral or pleasant things. Do you think this will affect your energy and your karma? Okay, we have a family. A wife does yoga, but husband doesn't do the most moral work. But because wife lives off the husband, she will share his burden in the energy sense. That's a fact. Questions, additions, comments? Do you have any questions? I have a question. I am a yoga teacher myself, and I agree with you 100%. But I have a question about physiology. When legs go numb and blue in Padmasana, is this also because of closed joints? Well, I may be mistaken, but if I don't, Google it anyway. So, if a person is wounded, they wrap a tourniquet around him, right? So that blood would not pass. For how many hours the tourniquet has to be during bone breakages? 2 hours, not more. So you can shift it in 2 hours and all's good, right? So according to medicine and physiology, if your blood would not go for 2 hours to your limbs, that's okay. So it's not the case? Of course it's not. Did you understand the essence what I'm talking about? Because your body is a very sophisticated thing. And yes, you can put pressure and some limb would go blue. But look at me, I don't have it. Maybe your joints are open. And what's with the joints? Because it's the feet that press. Your joints being open or closed has absolutely nothing to do with it, because your arteries don't go this way. You don't sit on your veins.
то вены сами не проходят намного выше. Они никак, раскрыть, не раскрыть, это совсем другое.
Well, but if a person, of course, has a big, large hip, he needs to put his feet higher, and so he would need his hip joint to be more open. So it's not physiology. It's all your mind giving you a picture, like something wrong with me, I need to do something, I need to switch a position, right? The easiest way is to sit in half lotus as much as possible throughout the day. Eat in half lotus. But again, it's useless if you do bad things in life. So first life, work, thoughts, then yoga. Otherwise, I've never seen moral freaks that succeeded in yoga. I'm not talking about putting your leg over your head. That many can do. And it's not the case here. Padmasana is a good stereotype. It's a measurement tool for karma. It shows the inner world of a person, if he has karma or no karma. So if he has no karma, it's one specific consciousness activity. If he has karma, it's other specific consciousness activity. It's all interconnected. When we were talking about whether or not you can combine powerlifting, workout, and yoga, I said, of course you can. I'm not lying. Understand, please. I'm not lying. You can do anything.
Я не лукавлю, что можно все, что угодно.
I don't want to speak about it, but I guess I'll have to. Take a potential yogi, and his path is 10 years. So these first 10 years will be his test and trials. How and when? No matter. If he will be able to succeed, he will go forward and evolve. If he won't be able, he won't. What kind of nonsense he will be doing during these first 10 years, it's no matter. He will do nonsense anyways, because it's the way his consciousness will go. No offense. I've just never seen a person who would start doing yoga and do everything the right way. They do right for a small period of time, but then everybody starts messing around. The nonsense manifests, and you may never think he will do such a thing, but he just does it. And so it doesn't matter what kind of nonsense, because nonsense has to get out. If he will overcome it with dignity, he will go forward. That's absolutely true. But here, in this period, at the end of life, here will remain those that made as less mistakes as possible. Those who made lots of mistakes will never even get there. They will live good social life, play guitar, sing songs, anything, but it won't be yoga, of course. Understand? That's why at the beginning he can do anything, he can do powerlifting. If it gives him austerities, it's already great. Meaning if his workout is ascetic. If he will have big muscles, that's secondary. And the more muscles, the harder his life will be. But I know this. But maybe he needs to learn from his own experience. You know, some powerlifter would say, of course, look at Verba's body, it's thin like nothing, right? He will be right, but my body is my protection. If here, in front of you, would be a different, big, wide athlete, you know, he would not even be here, because he wouldn't even be able to get here, because he would be distracted. By whom? This world is very cruel, and if you attract much interest, you won't be able to get your goal. The more attractive you are in terms of society, the faster it will swallow you. And that's a fact. That's why having a not perfect body is a good thing, actually. Having a body that does not answer some criteria, it's okay. It's a good thing.
который не соответствует каким-то критериям, это благо.
Alright, you think I've made it up, but it's classic. If you will survive on the path of yoga, in 10 years you'll say to me, you are right. Well, no matter.
Вот, ну ладно, неважно. Поэтому чем как бы человек будет развитый, чем
Alright, I'll give you one phrase, so you would not tie this to me. Have all of you heard saying, in healthy body resides healthy spirit? Healthy, mighty, right? But it's just the half of the phrase, the other being, and it's a very rare thing. So in healthy body resides healthy spirit, and it's a very rare thing. That is to be physically mighty and healthy, and spiritually healthy is a very, very rare thing to have. Why? They corrupted the sense. Of course, and completely. Yeah, you know, because high and mighty, healthy, healthy men that have physical health, they have much energy, right? And they have many ambitions. I'll give you an example. It was here nearby. There was an incident, actually. So in this small town here nearby, Переславль-Залесский, the city was, the town was closed because they were building a bridge, and so only the residents of the town were driving, on the roads, and they had an incident during the night on an empty street, because one such high and mighty person thought the other person's car had cut him at this empty street. And so they were racing and shooting from airsoft guns until one of them hit the pillar. And the funniest thing here is that it was at the empty street. They hit the pillar while shooting guns. How do you think, if they were sick with temperature, would they do it? So I guess you need to be sort of healthy to do this kind of crap. Understand what I'm talking about? And there are lots of examples when this so-called health, physical health, didn't prevent people from doing insanity. Alright. You told us about living off somebody and taking... Not taking, but having it as a burden, as a wife. I remember a story from Alexey Vasilievich Terhlebov about a righteous wife who cooked meat for her husband. What about it? Because she was serving him. He demanded meat and she humbly listened. And in the end, she became a saint or something like that. But she did also many other things. Apart from cooking meat, she did inner practices like yoga, concentration on some deity. And so the fact that she cooked her demon husband's meat, it was according her karma. And this demon husband have made karma to be a wife of a demon himself in future life after purgatory. Because he made this debt for himself. So here, what we are talking about, it's not about this particular case. It's about the script they have made for each other. I will give you an example from Mahabharata about King Dhritarashtra and his wife, his queen, Gandhari, when she voluntarily didn't see her children, and she was serving Shiva very well, and because she had so much energy stored, and so much love for her children, no matter how degenerate her son was, she decided to save her son's life. Everybody knows this story, no? Alright, I'll explain. But you know better, just watch Mahabharata. You can see it in full colors. In the nutshell, she had a colossal potential, but her husband was a moral freak, only thinking about his ambitions. But she served her husband her whole life. She had children, almost hell spawns, but she herself had very much potential. Why? Because family is one thing, but you have also your own personal feelings. You can cook this chicken thinking that I don't like it, but it's my duty and I have to do it. And you can also cook it like it's no big deal, yeah, I want to please my husband and that's it. And that's two different things. People think differently. Two different motivations. Regarding your question, the young ones really depend on their parents a lot, so their activity will influence you a lot. I have a guy who comes to my lessons for 3 years with no progress, but comes and sweats and overcomes pain again and again. He's even shaking. So I say, no pain, only discomfort, only discomfort. But he overworks himself anyway, and still no progress. And I have accidentally found out that he has a big business, lots of karma. So he comes to yoga classes and just takes it. Takes it and endures. Yes. You've mentioned family karma. What do you mean family karma? Well, inheritance, family. Well, regarding Vaishyu, yes. If we talk about Vaishyu, yes, it's my family, my heritage is my karma. But regarding Brahmins, their incarnation system is quite different. A soul incarnates in a family that is required for its exam, understand? That is, if a person needs to go through certain lessons, he can be born from a prostitute and an alcoholic and still get experience for his development. And it happens, but it's no matter, because enlightened people happen to be born in a very extreme and bad conditions, and nevertheless, they could find courage and strength to overcome and change their energy and thus their karma. Okay, guys. Any more questions on this topic? And what should people do with big businesses and lots of karma? To continue diligently or to say that it's not for me? Well, if you won't practice, it won't do you or anybody else good. But if you will endure, you may reduce the problems that await you in future. So you should practice under any conditions and any karma. Yes, you should put effort. From this point, even Bible is an advanced book, Christian Bible I mean. There Jesus says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God, because social life just won't let you. You know that during the deadly 90s, lots of people didn't survive in Russia. Question: why some survived and some didn't? They were cruel, faster, and things like that. Yes, assets went to those without any moral principles, understand? If you will think about it, you will understand everything very clearly. Okay, regarding Padmasana, any other questions? Isn't it bad for knees because they twist so much? You feel pain in your knees? Yes, and I have a feeling that if they will open, wouldn't it be bad for me? Okay, there is an asana called Kandasana that helps opening knee joints. Listen, you can have your fears, but I know lots of people and I myself live with Padmasana, trying to sit in it as much as possible. If I have energy for it, of course. Because my apana-vayu always changes. Today I have one energy, I upload a video, I have a totally different apana-vayu. So sometimes I need to catch up to my normal state. Everything will be okay with you, but you can have all your fears and doubts for a long time, because all fears and doubts are situated in knees. Pain can happen. I had a period of 3 years when my knee was aching. It was all of a sudden. I couldn't find the reason why it was aching. I hurt nobody, was just living, and one day it just started to ache, and that's it. I did everything, but only this one knee was aching. But just, after some time, the pain went away. And when you can sit on the left leg in Padmasana, but you cannot on the right one, why is it? You have some limitation, of course. Just try to gradually change legs and gradually work with it. I also had this limitation. And in order to achieve proper Padmasana, you need to sit first in such Padmasana for several years, understand? When one knee sticks out, the more yoga you will do, the faster your hip joints will open. At first, all sit like this, with knees sticking out, and they try to put them lower and lower, and gradually with time they can. What I'm trying to say here, try to look at your Padmasana not through physiology, but through energy and karma. There are different courses on Padmasana. Most of them are dynamic. When you move your legs, knees, your feet, and it's fine to take them and do them. But I speak from experience when I say develop your body in complex. Don't do specific exercises only. Do more full body, complex, different asanas. It's no use to train only your legs. Even if you have perfectly developed legs, you still may have badly developed shoulder belt, and it will influence you. It will influence your consciousness. So please, do all asanas. And then Padmasana will come just like a side effect. It's like, okay, I do yoga, now I can do Padmasana, I'm going forward. Any other questions? I've seen two types. Two types people know nothing about yoga, not very spiritual, but one of them easily sits in Padmasana, while other one just cannot do it. Is it because karma as well? Because the one who said, he's okay guy, he's a good guy. Well, it's not important. When you tried this experiment? Well, it was recently. My brother cannot do it. Ask this person to sit in Padmasana in 5 years. Let's see what happens. If he lives like everybody else, in 5 years there will be no Padmasana for him. Because that storage of good karma he brought from his past lives will be easily used up here. I've seen it happen lots of times. If he will not monitor his thoughts, speech and actions, nothing good will come to him. I have also a friend, she is quite far from a role model of spirituality. but she easily sits in Padmasana. For how long? I don't know, my question is a different... Hold on, this is an important question, because lots of people ask it. So I repeat, there is a person that is very far from being a role model, completely opposite of spirituality. Nevertheless, this person can easily sit in Padmasana. So suggest this person to sit for an hour. If it's easy, then 2. So his karma will manifest itself. But it's just likely that this person will sit for 5 minutes and say, it's all foolishness, I can hurt my knee. Right? Okay, what is your question? Well, I suppose if this person did it, he still has some good karma left in him, yes? He had good karma, he took it from past lives. So why a person with good karma reincarnates into a person who degrades completely? I will tell you, there's a version. Have you heard of two goody two shoes yogis? Yogis. Alright, forget it. Let's have another example. 2 brothers go to some religious event that is a temple high in the mountains. They come to a river. Beside the river standing a young and beautiful woman who cannot pass this river. Well, one brother says, "Oh well, okay, get on my shoulders, I will carry you with no problems." So he carried her and they went on. They came to this event. Have you heard of the story? Well, the thing is here that he carried her and forgot, while the other was like, how could he do it? Well, he was angry, and when they died, one went to heaven, the other went to hell. And the one who came to hell asked, "How am I here? I was at the event, but my brother defiled himself." The answer was, "You know, your brother has defiled himself and forgot." And went on, "But you lived in this defilement the whole time." Well, I'm just kidding, of course. Well, therefore, people are quite different indeed. Alright, I will tell you something that I didn't want to, but here we go. If a person lives in purity, but is jealous of passions, he looks at the passions and thinks, wow, a passion, what's it like? Understand? So he acquires a thirst for these passions. He wants to have an experience of it. And so in future, he will break bad and plunge into this passion despite of his yogi nature, in order to know what it's like. That is, a person doesn't want to believe the words. He wants to plunge into the passion, which is very painful. Regarding this topic, in Yoga Vasishtha, there is an interesting story where one advanced master didn't have the experience of sexual relations, meaning he didn't know anything about the topic. So he decided to gain this experience of sexual relations. And so this master knew that there was a dying king who had a huge harem full of concubines, with whom he practiced something that is very far from asceticism. So this master left his body, and when the king died, he went into the king's body, healed it, and started living as him. So he gained all the experience he needed, but during the process of being the king, he forgot a little bit. He forgot that he has to come back to his own body. And if I'm not mistaken, he had to put some effort. He had to put some effort in order to get out of this life. But he didn't need to die. He just transferred his mind, understand? And lots of people get involved in full scale, and many use yoga in order to take everything from life.
А многие люди вовлекаются по полной программе. И многим йога помогает именно брать от жизни все.
And these people have a right to do so. There is no need to judge. It's their experience. They need to live it. I know some people who put their legs over their heads better than me. Honestly, I don't do many asanas, never did and never will do, and I don't strive to do them. I don't need to, understand? So there are people who from the physical side of yoga are perfect. I have a friend who can twist and turn himself into such fascinating things. Well, it's, looks cool, but it has no relation to spirituality. Will I become a demigod? No, you will become a demigod if apart from jealousy you have a huge amount of tapas, energy. You cannot become demigod because of jealousy, but if you have a great amount of tapas, you could go higher, but you didn't because of your jealousy, and so you became just a demigod. And it's not an achievement, it's a limitation. For example, how do you differ from the people who reside in the nearby luxurious complex? How? What do you think? Why they chose the life they chose and you chose the life you chose? Because they wanted something materialistic. They got it. But do you think it's good? If you get something, it doesn't mean you have won. Probably it means you have lost. Because those people have spent what they had in order to get those things.
Ну, вернее, те, я имею в виду, люди, которые уже обладают там чем-то тем, что, допустим, вы сейчас не обладаете.
You speak about material wealth? Yes. Yes, regarding reincarnation, you probably have heard about Christian hell and heaven. So if you are a good guy, you go to heaven. Otherwise, you go to hell. Well, everybody is familiar with this concept, yes? In Buddhism, there's much more. They would say, we'll be bad, we'll reincarnate in hell. We'll be a little bad, we'll reincarnate as an animal. We'll be a little bad, we'll reincarnate as a hungry spirit. Or as a very, very poor person. Needy. If you will be good, kind, just, will reincarnate as human. But if you will be super good, you will reincarnate as a demigod. But if you will be ultra independent, good with no jealousy, you will reincarnate as Brahma, the creator of the universe. Something more serious, right? How demigods differ from more serious gods? Assume that Brahma's lifespan is equal to the lifespan of the galaxy. 7 Indras change in a life of one Brahma. Indra is a demigod who is responsible for all other demigods. So 7 Indras come and go in a lifespan of one Brahma. Well, let's go further. There is a concept, but let's not go any further. Therefore, by virtue of certain ideologies, people perceive reality differently. There is someone who says, there is no such thing as past or future life, so live and take everything from life. Such people also exist. If you look up the internet, you can find really fast who controls the world. These people have a concept that there is no law of karma. Read about this. There is much interesting to learn about. Now, we've come to an important moment in yoga, and that's karma. Not everybody knows about it, so it's worthwhile to talk a little about this topic. Classical texts refer to 3 types of karma. Who remembers what are they? Akarma, vikarma, and karma. Yeah, and karma. Then karma is something you did to somebody and you get the same something regarding form, proportion and condition. You hurt a cat, you will become a cat and get hurt. Or the second option, you were a cat, you were hurt, and now you're a human and have to hurt the cat. You say, well, it's contradiction, something strange. But it's really that difficult. Not only you have to look from the perspective of a person in relation to a phenomenon, but always look from the perspective of this phenomenon which occurred in relation to the person. So any karma should be viewed from two positions. Karma has its reason in the past and in the future. And it's really true that karma of your past affects your reality today. But this is a difficult topic, not for today's discussion. So the second concept is akarma. It's thought to be a divine intervention when a deity reincarnates in the realm of man in order to fulfill a certain role, and so then it doesn't bear any consequences, because it doesn't get involved into the process. It's a very slick topic, because many egocentric or selfish people, understanding this concept, may through not getting involved, acquire lots of karma. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Эгоисты, понимая такую процедуру, могут, не вовлекаясь в процессы в кавычках, очень конкретно кармовать. Понятно, о чем говорю? Вот человек говорит.
There is such a concept in Buddhism. In some schools they say, it's no matter what process you are going through. If you drink alcohol or eat meat, just be an observer. Don't get involved in the process and all will be okay. I knew a guy who has read a bunch of these books, and so he started accumulating all this experience without getting involved. Now he works as a loader, his girlfriend expects a child, and now he has a life with lots of fun probably. Most likely, he won't do any yoga in a foreseeable future, because if he's not a complete spiritual freak, and won't leave his girlfriend and child, it would be very tough for him to do yoga and earn money, while having also no capabilities to do so. Well, now it's very difficult for him, because he believed that you may acquire experience without getting involved. Well, it's a very difficult topic. Our karma happens when you are in a situation you cannot change in any way and you are forced to experience it, but you didn't want to in the first place. Conditions made you experience it, understand? Maybe only in this case you don't bear the responsibility for what you are forced to do. Regarding this topic, read Bhagavad Gita, a small piece of 6 Mahabharata book, where Krishna explains Arjuna why he should kill his relatives. Arjuna says, "How so? I don't want to kill them." And Krishna says to him, "Don't think about it. It's your duty, just kill them." I may not say the exact words, so you are better to read the source material. But the source covers this topic in much detail from the perspective of non-duality regarding the things you have to do. The second book which I recommend on the subject of non-duality is Yoga Vasishtha. It's a #1 hit to broaden your worldview, but at the same time, it's a #1 hit for philosophy far removed from reality. That is, most people who read Yoga Vasishtha, remember how I draw here a space interval. Assume a person is here, and he needs to be here. So here, on this level, always is Yoga Vasishtha. Whether or not he will reach this point, it's unknown, because this book blows your mind completely. But it's a wonderful training. Blows your mind in a good sense, of course, there's nothing bad in it. But the thing is that Advaita Vedanta philosophy, it is such that if a person doesn't want to do anything, only self-development. That's the first book you come to. Only self-development, only your yoga, and the world around is just an illusion. I say this because I've seen lots of examples in Advaita Vedanta, but in reality, it's a dead end, because this point will be reached only by those who think not only about themselves, but about others as well. You cannot consider the world around as something external. This point is reached only by those who solve the problems of the world around. That is, they destroy their selfishness and start to service the world. Understand? I have a question. So you recommend a lot of literature. There are books in audio format. Is there a difference between reading and listening? Yes, because lector's vibrations will influence the energy you receive. When a lector is reading, he invests his whole ideology in his voice. The person's voice affects you very much, whether you want it or not. You know, I have an example. There was a guy. He was an announcer, and he had a perfect articulation, but the way he lived his life, it was a nightmare. I mean, he was in all lusts possible. He was handsome too. Poor guy, actually. I felt very sorry for him. What if I turn on lections to other people? I mean, I turn on the lecture at home and people who surround me, whether they want it or not, they listen to it. Yes, but I thought you were speaking about yourself. If you talk about yourself, I recommend that you record the books you read and listen your own voice. Buy a recorder, they are cheap nowadays. 15 years ago, the technology costs crazy money. Now, a voice recorder with normal settings is about $200. Recorder with such settings cost $4,000–$5,000 15 years ago. I know for a fact. Buy a voice recorder. I can even give the model's name. Record your book and edit a little bit. And there you go. Listen and enjoy. Therefore, you will minimize karmic knots, because somebody has recorded a book for you for two reasons. Do you understand what reasons? It's either your past or your future. So if you don't want to get involved in different processes, record by yourself and listen. But if you recommend somebody, recommend both book and audio book, so a person would make his own choice whether or not to get involved. When a person says, I'm not interested, I don't need this, what should I do? Well, he's not really interested. Okay, but I turn on the lecture at my house and maybe he starts to listen. Should I do it or not? Do not do to another what you don't want to be done to you. It's a dual situation, you see. And you see him, you understand his karma, you realize that if he doesn't like what he's doing, he likes something else, right? I can imagine what he likes. And can you imagine where a person sitting near TV watching a football game, where he will reincarnate? Well, most likely he likes football, yes? No, he doesn't. What does he like then? Wow, he's an advanced person, be happy. But he does such things that, that I don't... Then you will be in a situation when somebody will turn on spiritual literature for you. Do you want this? Yes, I do. Turn on then. If you don't want this, then don't do it. Every time you do something, think about how would you have liked it yourself, and then behave accordingly. No problems at all. Questions, suggestions, comments, disagreements. Well, friends, back to karma then. Somehow we were able to break down a karma. It is the hardest part for a human mind to understand. Then there is karma. Here everything is simple. You reap the same amount and form of energy you sowed. And vikarma is when you know you're doing something bad, but you're still doing it.
зная, что он плохо делает, но он все равно делает.
It's like, I hate you so much, I will do something bad to you, they say. But the conscious intervenes and says, stop. Why do you do this? No, says the anger. I will go and do this vile act. So guys, this is vikarma, the worst type of karma, because he knew everything, but he couldn't resist his negative passions. Understand the point? Now we need to talk about some astral beings that can influence you. Let's look at a situation. Here is a soul. It has two choices. Move up the stairs, it's harder. Or moving down the stairs, it's easier. What will it choose? It will choose according to its worldview, right? There is a concept of astral parasites that can influence human consciousness. Google them up and read about it.
Которые могут повлиять на сознание человека, окутывает его. Забейте в интернет слово лярва.
They are even being classified or ranked.
Особенно любопытно, вот еще какая тема. Ну ладно, давайте не будем дальше уходить.
Alright, according to the person's karma, this parasite can influence the person's path. Assume a person has karma to go to the lower world, but he also can do some good while being on earth. So these parasites try to make him, instead of good things, to succumb to some addiction, because these parasites also have a program to follow. They have to burn a certain amount of sinners, so they will do anything to have those sinners at their disposal. Here, yoga can help you only if a person is ready to do things that he doesn't like doing, to endure and practice asceticism. Only then his positive karma can outweigh his negative one. This is one of the theories behind the existence of yoga as an alternative for people who are capable to evolve. Those who are destined to evolve, they don't take the sweet pill. Who experiences pleasure because of yoga during first 5-10 years? Nobody. But nevertheless, this person somehow finds the strength to do what is not always pleasant and comfortable, and moves slowly forward. And there are other people who say it is very difficult, choosing the easier way. Well, it's their choice. They too need to accumulate some experience, right? You know why a person finds courage to take the harder path? Because he has already been here, and he intuitively knows that nothing good will come out of it. Well, I mean in past lives, of course. And the experience was saved, so now he tries to climb forward. Well, friends, any other questions, opinions, comments? And what is the difference between vikarma and ugra karma? Have never heard of it. I haven't heard, I can't say. And about asceticism, if there is a problematic situation, you said, and with the help of asceticism you can change the situation, is it important for a woman to choose the type of asceticism she should do? Because I heard Oleg Tarsunov, who said that women shouldn't endure harsh asceticism and discomfort, that she should do everything with the feeling of love. But I know from my own experience that sometimes it's not enough. Oleg Gennadievich, I respect him because he does righteous business and he obviously does very hard work. He specializes in Vaishyu. That is, what he says is for the most part for Vaishyu, who are craftsmen, traders, businessmen, therefore yogis live a little bit differently. And his words are not always suited for yogis. He speaks very important things, but they cannot be addressed to all people. According to the scriptures, as a matter of fact, Jivatma of man and women differ only in formed experience. So as a man, a woman can also evolve the way she wants to. Regarding this topic, There is a good movie. It's
Посмотрите
called
эту тему.
Devon Kevdev Mahadev.
Ну ладно, неважно.
There are examples
Просто хороший
how
Махадев
women
есть.
through asceticism achieved many
Есть
things.
женщины,
There are
занимающиеся
both
спортом,
negative
много.
and positive examples of
Там
this.
есть и негативные примеры, и
So what type
позитивные.
of asceticism you will
Поэтому
choose
какую вы аскезу
depends
себе
on your
выберете,
past
зависит от того,
lives.
какие у вас были прошлые жизни.
In this life,
Вы в этой
you have a
жизни
female
можете
body,
телом, это
but
совсем
it
не
doesn't
значит, что
mean
вы
you are always
жизнь
like
без
this.
воплощались.
There is a theory about women in Jewish religious system of development. Do you know the name?
Женщина это родился, то это на всю жизнь. Точнее, не в иудаизме, а как это называется? У
Kabbalah.
них эта система развития есть.
Yes, Kabbalah. So according to it, if you were born as a woman, from life to life you will reincarnate only as a woman and no other option. But other scriptures say the opposite. I know from my life that there are women who evolve themselves and help others. One woman helped me a lot one time, and only because of the knowledge she gave me, I was able to accomplish certain things and start practice seriously. If it wasn't for her, I don't know for how much more years I would have had to try and accomplish those things. So all women are different. Your caste is determined by your purpose. Am I right? The purpose of life. Your negative consequences and past actions determine the caste you are born in today, and the purpose is what you have formed in your own mind. Well, dharma, what is dharma? From the Buddhist point of view. From the Buddhist, from the Vedic, I don't know. It's the path you've created for yourself, because you always have a choice of going this road or that road, but it's only you who choose the vector that seems right. Remember, I drew a scheme that during the first 10 years the person will do nonsense. He'll get into different sects, do all kind of nonsense, but in reality it's all necessary. Moreover, even though I told you about the sects, again, I will say that they are very useful. I have not seen examples of people who got smart by themselves. Maybe I just have such bad karma. Most often a person has to go through a lot of nonsense to become smart. So putting restraints on a person, like don't go there, you will hurt yourself, is pointless. Let him go. He will hurt himself, but afterwards everything will be okay. Now learning from others people's experience is impossible, believe me. I've spent a lot of years. I was very hard-edged and divided things into black and white, white and black. But through much time wasted on explanations that these things are good and these things are bad, I've came to a conclusion that it's just pointless. If a person hasn't had enough, it's pointless to explain things to him. It's better to spend your life energy on people who are capable to develop, not on those who want to go the other way. If they want to go, let them go. Afterwards, they will come to you themselves and will ask many questions, understand? It's not cruelty, it's justice. Okay, let's have another question. Andrey, but can you tell me, what is the final destination here? You have to become a good teacher. Before you become a teacher, teachers too are divided into different categories. A so-so teacher, a so teacher, a little bit better teacher, a normal teacher, a good teacher, an excellent teacher. Understand? And then, believe me, this then will happen a very, very long time from now. When you will be a so teacher, you will be getting the same so students. You will drink beer, what yama niyama, nonsense, let's take everything from life, understand? It's funny to watch such teachers from the side, but they are actually needed. From one life to another, you will reincarnate. That is, each teacher is beneficial for people who are capable to develop. Assume we draw several teacher categories. The highest will be Tathagata. These are the teachers who have achieved all that is possible in all studies. That is, they were the worst teachers, then better and better, that is clear. They've completed all these stages, because on each level there is a certain amount of people who can only understand the words of this particular teacher. The fact of the matter is that these students, they are karmic debt of this primitive teacher. He needs to be the teacher of the students, otherwise he won't evolve further. So until he give all these debts to people who can understand him, he won't evolve. Do you understand this? And what will happen to the last? Do not hurry. Most important here is that your Tathagata level is very, very long time from now. You should survive what you have here first. Understand, this is the most important thing. I will tell you everything. Don't hurry. That's why on this level, such teacher will have the dumbest students, and it's just the reflection of his negative karma when he was like this himself. For many lives he was dumb, went to dumb teachers from life to life, because he couldn't understand anything else. Everything else was too much for him, understand? Therefore, at some stage, the teacher, he always pulls his students. You cannot understand it until you try it. The dumber the students, the harder it's to pull them, okay? Because they do dumb things. And when through many lives you will help all those students, you will go to another level. Another level would involve more adequate students, and you will evolve further and further, and then you will become Tathagata. At least all the scriptures say so. So Tathagata is the one who is beyond time and space, being in his body at the same time he is in all other realms, if these realms have Tathagata. Understand the point? Tathagatas are fully connected. At least when Buddha Shakyamuni, who was here 2,500 years ago, when he was telling his students stories, he didn't remember them. He was telling what was happening. It's like there was some Tathagata connected to him, and he was doing something for others. And Buddha was telling this story, which is not only far in space, but in time also. So it's completely blurry. Imagine here goes this pyramid, okay? That is, if these teachers are many, these teachers are very small in number. But the point is that here, as the movement of the water in nature, there is a constant movement in both sides. You climb, you make a mistake, now again at the start. Understand? So to get here is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult. And then these teachers, these Tathagatas, they leave their place free for their students, because there should not be one on the top, because others won't develop this way, understand? They should dissolve and should leave this place free for their students. So each could experience this. And so here, there's a certain evolution in this, but who will become Tathagatas? I cannot really say. It's beyond human level, but according to their actions, it's 100% positive. The concept of beyond time and space apparently implies that this Jivatma becomes what it was according to the scriptures, because it explains why the material world was created. Once, all Jivatmas were one, but due to the fact that Jivatma wanted to gain different experiences, it has divided itself, and we differ from each other by the experience accumulated in past lives. Each of us gains a separate experience, but sometime all of us will need to come together. Understand? And the upward path, this is the way of teaching, when you become an expert in everything. I have not invented this, please understand. See Vedic scriptures, watch movies, Hindu movies. There, of course, you won't see the essence, but why these menacing warriors who are strong, healthy, wealthy, mighty, and so on, why do they come to a weak and a poor teacher for advice? Why would they do it? Why does this happen? And this happens all the time. So it turns out, teachers who understand the specific laws, they are always above those who have strength, health, and so on. Because all the power and health, they are much lower than this knowledge.